Hello, my name is Chuck Kimmel. I am currently the director of the Injury Clinic at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. I want to thank you so much for participating in this project. My disclaimer is that I have no financial interest in anything that is discussed during the presentation. I have received permission from Steve Moore for using his comic In the Bleachers panels that you will see. Otherwise, there are no additional disclaimers. If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, oftentimes in leadership, that's exactly where you'll find yourself. There'll be things going on all around you, and if people think that it's a bad thing and you're the leader, then they're going to blame you. And a good leader, or a leader who has grown accustomed to this, I guess would be the best way to put it, would be that you wouldn't lose your head, that you would feel good about the direction and about the decisions that have been made and are willing to move forward. Sorry, going backwards. If you can trust yourself when all men and women doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. I think that, to me, says just stay honest. The doubters will keep you honest. Some of the best discussions I ever had as a leader were with people who were just adamantly against a position that I had taken or a way that I was leaning. And what that did was it gave me the opportunity to either believe more strongly in my position or think, hey, they may have a point, and be willing to look at their argument and decide whether they in fact did have a point. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting. Patience, as we all know and is said to all of us throughout our lives, is a virtue. And it's sometimes hard to be patient as you have a vision and a plan, and allowing to let the pieces for that plan to come in fall into place and allow it to happen. So you have to wait, and you can't be made tired by waiting. Or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. The worst things that a leader can do is allow the things that others say about them get under their skin. It distracts them from the goal and the patience that they need to try to bring that goal to fruition. So don't worry about lies that are being told about you, if in fact you believe in what you're doing, and don't deal in lies. Don't double up to catch up. Don't feel like you can, because others are lying about you or your position or hating you. Don't give in to that by lying yourself or by hating them. As a leader, you have to separate your own self from the leadership role that you're in. You, in fact, may take positions that you don't like, but as a leader, you are forced to take those positions because they're what's in the best interest of the group that you are leading. And yet, don't look too good, nor talk too wise. Believe me, we know of enough falling role models who have thought too good of themselves or talked in ways about themselves that weren't true, or that in some way would try to lift them above the people they serve. As a leader, you have to remember that you're a servant, and a servant eats last and takes care of the others first. So if it's meant for you to look good, you don't need to try to make that happen. It'll happen on its own. Likewise, if you are to be made to look wise. If you can dream and not make your dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, you have to dream, but they can't. You have to have dreams for the future, for whomever you're leading, but that can't be the only thing that drives you, because, as we all know, all dreams do not come true. And if some of them do, that's great, but they can't be your master. You also can't make your thoughts your only aim. Again, you have to be open-minded and willing to travel down a path that you may not know where it ends up, but hoping that as a part of your dream, you can make that part or all of the dream come true. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. Every leader hopefully will have plenty of triumphs, but believe me, there will be disasters, and sometimes they can be momentous. You need to be able to treat them both equally. You have to move on from either the things that go well or the things that don't go well, and go on to the next task, go on to the next dream, go on to the next goal. So the triumph that you have, there's no dancing in the end zone, nor is there an unkind shot in the end zone by the defensive player to the scoring offensive player. You have to treat them both the same, and to continue with the end zone metaphor, you have to act like you've been there, either as the scorer or as the person who just got scored on. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, trysted by knaves to make a trap for fools. As a leader, things that you say will be either taken out of context sometimes, or molded into a shape that they weren't meant to be molded. You have to be prepared for that, but you can't fall for those traps and let it change how you feel or what you believe to be the truth. You'll know what you've said. You'll know how you feel. Stick true to it as long as you believe in it, and you believe it's what's best for the group that you're leading. Or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. There'll be things that you think you've been successful at, and they'll be broken down. And if they are, you have to be willing, just like Notre Dame in Paris, you have to be willing and able to bend over, pick up the tools around you, and rebuild those dreams and those goals out of whatever tools you have handy, knowing that there will be beauty at the end, even if it's different than what it was at the beginning. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. To me, that says that if you do lose as a leader, that you don't give up, that you don't back away from the things that you believe in, that you're willing to start all over again and try to build that dream or that leadership role again, and not waste 1 second on the loss that you've suffered. No one likes to lose, but some of our best leaders have come back from times when they've been defeated and learned from those defeats and arisen again as even stronger leaders than they would have been had they not been defeated, but yet not lean on that defeat as you talk about what has happened to you. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will to say, which says to them, hold on. You have to be willing to be determined and fight on as a leader for things that you believe in. Even if the time has passed, you still can remain a leader on the sideline, helping those who then are in the leadership roles. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minutes with 60 seconds of worth of distance run, if you can do all of these things, if you can, as a leader, walk in your group and keep your virtue, the things that we've talked about already, or walk with kings or other leaders, but yet still have the common touch. For me, when I was in a leadership role, I enjoyed meeting new members of the NATA and learning about them. And it meant a lot to me for members to take their time to visit with me. If you can not let your friends or your foes hurt you, if you can look on either side of you at colleagues and allies, but not count on them too much, not because they can't be trusted, but because they too can have their opinions. And just because they're with you today, you may have a difference the next day, and that doesn't mean that they become an enemy. That just means that you have a differing opinion, and that's when you listen to them. And if when things are tough and you can keep going regardless of the obstacles, regardless of the challenges, that you can continue to run, then at the end, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you will be a woman or a man, leader and athletic trainer, my daughters and sons. If you can do all the things that Rudyard Kipling talked about in If, and if you can come out of it on the good end of all his questions, then you will be a leader and you'll be someone that can be counted on. For me, the ideal NATA leader has some personal qualities, and these aren't exclusive qualities, nor are they totally complete. There's thousands of words you could choose. But for me, the personal qualities would include being curious. You have to want to look around the corner for the profession. If you want to consider options, you need to have initiative. No association or no group moves forward unless someone has the initiative to start a program or to voice an idea. But you also have to have an ability and a willingness to learn. Again, that goes back to the poem where you have to listen to other people. and you have to learn from other people. The leaders who came before you have great insight. You have to have respect for others. Even when you disagree, you should respect them. And know, as I've just said, that they may be on the other side today, but they may be your strongest supporter tomorrow on another issue. You have to have a passion for the profession. For me, there's never been anything but athletic training. There's never been anything for me to consider other than what I thought was best for the profession, whether it was when I was a student or now as I near the end of my career as an athletic trainer. And maybe most importantly, I think you have to be adaptive. You have to have adaptability. You can't be unyielding. You have to be willing to play in the give and take, to not only be able to voice your thoughts, but allow others to voice theirs to you. Some skills and behaviors. Your actions need to align with your words. If you don't say what you really mean, you will be caught. And if you do something that runs counter to what you've promised, people will find it hard to forgive you. You need to be able to practice constructive confrontation. We all develop tools that we use, and for me, one of the tools that worked best for me was when I was being confronted, and as a leader, you will be confronted, and it may not be kind, but when I was confronted, I never got angry back, and I always listened to the member until they were done. And then I would just say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but, and then I would offer my opinion. And it wouldn't be threatening. It wouldn't be as if it was the only opinion, but it would first acknowledge that you understand that they're upset and that you are sorry they're upset, but that there are other factors that go into it, and you try to explain it. An ideal LAT leader needs to set priorities and have focus. You have to have goals. You have to have things that you want to accomplish for the group that you're leading, and then you need to be able to focus on it. I think a great leader cultivates diversity. I think I'm seeing more and more of that every day with the NATA, and it makes me very proud because we're seeing all different types and kinds and looking people getting involved in the NATA. And although we're not where we ought to be, I think we ought to continue to cultivate diversity and welcome diversity, not only of people, but of opinions. Opinions are as diverse as anything else, and I think a leader cultivates that diversity so that everybody has a chance to offer their insights, and then regardless of who you are, that you feel like you can speak up. A good leader negotiates and mediates. Clearly, there are times when the best leaders have to step in the middle and help two sides work out their disagreements or differences in opinions and try to come to a way to negotiate a middle ground or mediate, offer that middle ground. One thing that most people, and you say you hear that the most frightening thing for a human being is public speaking. I don't think that should scare people. An NATA leader needs to be able to speak publicly and effectively. The best way to describe, I think, how a person can become comfortable speaking publicly is just do it. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And it's easy for me to say that. But there were times when I was nervous. Speaking at a general session at the NATA annual meeting is a room full of a lot of athletic trainers who all have their own opinions, and you're the only one speaking, and you're standing in front of them. It's not something that we want to do, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it was easy for me because I believed what I was saying. And when I spoke words that came from my heart and things that I believed in. So if you're speaking from the heart and saying things that you believe in, speaking publicly will not be a hard thing, because it will be coming from an important place inside of you. A good NATA leader, I believe, appreciates the profession's culture and values and knows its history. I'm the old guy now telling you to get off my lawn, but I think it is important that leaders know the history of whatever group they're leading, that they appreciate the profession's culture and values. That doesn't mean you can't massage that culture or massage those values as a leader to change them, but you have to appreciate what came before you. I was the 10th NATA president. My dearest friends during those 4 years were the 9 presidents who came before me. I called them so often that if they had caller ID, and back then it wasn't so common as it is now, they probably wouldn't have answered the phone. But they always answered, and they always listened to me. So I needed to know our history, and I needed to know where we'd been to give me an idea of where we needed to go. A good leader should act thoughtfully, yet decisively. Leaders that aren't decisive are very poor leaders. They're not leaders. You have to be willing to make a decision and stick with that decision. That doesn't mean that it can't be reevaluated. That doesn't mean that you can't go back and look at it. That doesn't mean that it won't change over time. But you need to be both thoughtful and decisive. Qualifications, I think their interests should mesh with their opportunities. If you're a collegiate athletic trainer, it makes no sense for you to be on the high school committee. You have to be willing to devote the time that's required. If you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't ask to do it. You should stay current with the issues. You need to talk to your fellow athletic trainers. Talk to the people you serve to find out what the issues are with them. Routinely attend meetings showing interest and offering to help. I believe in today's NATA, it's much less common for someone on their first attempt at a leadership position that they get it. There just are so many NATA members. So you have to be a nagger. You have to be someone who asks and is willing to ask again to chip in. And you have to make a nuisance of yourself until someone lets you do it, and then you've got to deliver. And you make yourself a nuisance by attending meetings and showing interest. And if there's an area of interest for you, find the person who's on that committee or the leader. Go up and start a conversation. Ask questions. Show insight. Offer to help them without being a formal member. And you'll develop a reputation where you will be called on. An ideal NATA leader is a continuous learner. I'm still learning, and I'm trying in whatever way I can to be the best leader, even though my days have passed, that I can. And that is, for me today, the best way I can be a leader is to support the leaders that are now in service. And I have to do that. By doing that, I have to still be a learner. I have to keep an ear to the ground and know what's going on. You have to have a capacity for development and growth. You can't be happy with where you are. You should demonstrate an open mind and welcome innovation. You know, one of the continuing education sessions we had at work was about why people resist change, and the reason people resist change, and this really hit home for me because it makes a lot of sense. People don't like change because they feel like they're going to lose something, and nobody wants to lose something. So when you're making suggestions for change, you have to draw everybody in and let them know how they're not going to lose things, but how things are going to be better for them. And that's hard to do because a lot of people resist change, but you must have an open mind as well, and then welcome that change yourself. Effectiveness as a leader. A leader should respond in a timely manner. Nothing bothers me more than to send an email to someone or call someone and not hear back. I think it's unprofessional, and I don't think it reflects leadership in the least bit. So my promise to you is that if you ever email or call me, unless I am where I can't get email or phone calls, you will hear back from me within a day to 2 days. And if you've asked me a question that requires me to put some thought into it, you'll hear in that first day or two, but you'll hear that I'm thinking about it and that I'll get back to you when I am prepared to provide you with an answer I'm comfortable with. If you're going to be a leader, taking on the responsibility of responding to the people you are leading is a critical component to your success. By not returning calls or correspondence, you're telling those people you don't care about them, and that will not work out well for you. So if you want to be a leader, respond to things in a timely manner. You should always arrive prepared. You shouldn't go into any meeting that you haven't completely read and digested every word of material that's been sent to you in preparation for that meeting. You should also be prepared in the way that you feel like you know your position and are prepared to defend present, then defend your position. That doesn't mean you can't change it in the room, and you often will, but you need to start off prepared and ready to answer the questions that come about the items that are either on the agenda or to be discussed. You should complete your assignments in a timely manner. No one should have to wait on you to pitch in. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't step up. But these first three things are the three things to me that on the ground, in the trenches of leadership, are the most critical components. I had many people who would come up to me and say, boy, I sure would like to do this or that. I sure would like to be a part of this. And given the opportunity, they disappeared. They didn't do it. They stood me up, but yet they occupied a seat in the room that I couldn't give to someone else. Nobody likes a resume stuffer. So if you want a line in your resume, you make it count, and you do the three things here that are involved in being an effective leader. And the final thing is, I think you need to be empathetic. You have to be willing to listen and care. I tell you, I learned it the hard way. My first year as president, I went to the District 4 meeting, and at the time, CMS had taken athletic trainers off the pay schedule for fitting braces, and athletic trainers were losing their jobs. And this young lady came up to me at the meeting and said, Chuck, this is serious. CMS has taken us off. I've got friends who are losing their jobs. What's NATA doing about it? And I said, well, we're working as hard as we can to support this and get it turned around and changed. And she said, well, you should let people know. And I said, we do. Read your NATA news. We update it on a monthly monthly way, and this was pre-NATA range of motion. But we would send out emails back in the day that would update the status of things. And then she said, well, I'm not a member. And then that's when I made my mistake. I learned that I should be empathetic. I said, well, then I don't represent you. And about the time she started crying is about the time I realized that I had probably been too strong to her, and I felt really bad about it. I apologized, and, you know, one of my leadership qualities I said you should have is you should have the ability to learn and change, and I learned and changed from that encounter. As you can tell, it still bothers me, and I don't even know who this young lady was, and she still lives with me because she taught me that regardless of the circumstances, I should be empathetic. And I hope you'll learn this lesson from me and not live it yourself. Please be empathetic as a leader. Leadership as a member. You should be respected in the professional community. You should think strategically. You should be adaptable. You should be professionally confident and a role model for all the athletic trainers around you. And in spite of the fact that I say younger members, you should be a role model for all the athletic trainers and people that are around you. You should resolve conflicts through mediation and negotiation, like I've talked about. You should be able to delegate responsibility appropriately, and then let the people do the job. Excuse me. No one likes someone who looks over their shoulder. Again, you should welcome diverse opinions and perspectives. You should promote traditions and values. You should place the organization before self-interest. You should be influential among your peers, and you know that if you are, and you know if you aren't. As a member, you should lead the other members who are your peers in a positive way, not in a this is the worst association in the world. It should be, you know what, I'm not real sure I like this, but this is what we could do to talk to our district director to see if they would consider a change. And I'll tell you, in my 8 years in the boardroom, there was never a time that a single member couldn't bring a concern to a district director and it not make its way into the boardroom. So one member can get an agenda item in the boardroom if they just approach it in the right way. And a member should be personally and professionally confident, and they should be a good role model for the profession. And that means everybody you come in contact with, you need to behave. This is something that I try to do. I try to behave professionally in my work and in my community so that I reflect positively on my profession and the institution where I work. We all have our own lines. I work in a clinic, and my definition of proper attire is a button shirt and a pair of khakis or pants like that, not a T-shirt or shorts. So that's where I've drawn the line. Some people would say you need to wear a tie, and I would respect that. But you need to be a good role model for everybody that you come in contact with. So some of my own personal factors. You should be a problem solver, not a problem finder. It's easy to see problems. It's hard to solve them. Some things that come to mind. You know, as you know, or no, you may not know, during my time we had some challenges with the APTA. And it was critical to me that we get along, but so during my presidency, I met with the APTA president 2 times. I spoke to the sports section of the Physical Therapy Association. We had a summit in Dallas with 4 APTA representatives and 4 NATA representatives to try to iron out some differences. But I knew where I stood when I asked the APTA president, or I told the APTA president, that we didn't want the pie when it came to reimbursement. We just wanted a piece of the pie. And his response was, well, then you're going to have to get you another pie. I knew what I was dealing with, but it was respectful, and I did not take offense. But I knew what I needed. The executive director and I even went to the APTA headquarters in Washington and met with them there. And at the end of the day, it was all for naught because in my last year as president, we were forced to take legal action against the APTA that, based on the fact that they were telling their practitioners what they could and could not teach us and what we could and could not do in our practice. And I didn't think that was appropriate, that we should define what we did in our practice. And although no one wanted legal action, I have to say today that I think things worked out. We came to a settlement with them that I hope was mutually agreeable. And as you know, if you were in Las Vegas, the APTA president and our president announced a collaboration that would not have been possible in 2007. And I'm so grateful for that, because I do think both associations are stronger if we work together than if we're pulling in different directions. And I'm very proud of the leaders who followed me, who made that situation better. And I have to believe that standing up for ourselves in 2008 sent a message to anyone who would want to challenge us that we deserved a seat at the allied health care provider table. A good leader is selfless and works for the common good. You can't be in this to advance yourself. Again, I say you can't look to be a resume stuffer. I think the best leaders see solutions before many others can even see the problem. And that's hard to do. But if a good leader sees what's coming and tries to address it before it gets there, and if the best leaders are the ones that solve the problem before anybody knows that it is a problem. And that's a challenge. And that's sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't. But if you see a solution for a problem that no one else has seen yet, don't wait for it to become a problem. Address it. Much like we as athletic trainers do on the sidelines, as the previous In the Bleachers showed by hydration. We prevent problems. That's what we're best at before they occur. A leader cares enough to do the work without concern for credit. My leadership days are over, and to try to sum it up, I've been blessed by the athletic training and given recognition for things that I really didn't deserve. But I'll tell you, like I tell everybody, if I could get back in the arena again, I'd give back everything in terms of credit that I've been given, because I was given more than I deserved, and being a part of the process was so much fun, and so, I enjoyed it so much that I'd rather be doing the work than getting any credit for it, because there are so many people who play a role in every successful endeavor. And like the head coach, oftentimes the leader of the pack gets too much of the credit. And that's why you shouldn't do it for that. And this is much the same. A leader can see beyond the horizon, see a way there, and get others to come along. So if you see that problem before others do, and you feel like you know the solution, now the challenge is to get get the people you lead to come with you to the solution, even though they don't see the problem. And that takes it to a completely different level and is very, very challenging, as you can imagine. I think you need to find a mentor and be a mentor. Even at the age of 65, I still have mentors. I am always in search of people who can help me become better. And I thought President Lindley did a really good job talking about this in the May 2019 NATA News. So if you have it, go back and look at it. I really I think President Lindley put it much better than I could. And I would encourage you to go back and read it if you didn't. You need to establish relationships, either by phone or mail or meetings. Find those mentors. It always amazed me how people seem like they thought I wouldn't want to talk to them. And the ones who came up to introduce themselves were always amazed that it meant a lot for me to hear from them. Excuse me. And you'll find that in athletic training. You walk up to any district director or any NATA president, current or past, and they'll talk to you as long as you want to. And they'll engage you and they'll care about what you're saying. So you need to establish a relationship and then keep that relationship. Get their phone number. Call them. When you've got decisions that you need to make or leadership opportunities, they can advocate for you once they get to know you. So meet them, walk up to them. One guy one time called the athletic training at the time I was at Austin Peay, my first 2.5 years as NATA president. And this gentleman called the athletic training room, and I answered it. And he said, "I can't believe the NATA president answers the phone." And I said, "Who else would?" You need to be humble but willing to talk to anybody. And on the up and comer side, you need to meet everybody you can. So walk up to President Lindley or any of the past presidents or any district director or any Hall of Famer. They would love to spend time with anybody. A good leader listens more than you talk. I found that that's easier today than it was even 20 years ago, because when you talk, people will interrupt you just to be able to tell their story. So it's easy for me. I just listen more than I talk. When you come up to me to talk to me, I am going to listen to you, and I'm going to hear what you say, and then I'm going to respond. If you're coming up to challenge me about something, like I said before, I'll listen to you, and I'll say how sorry you feel that way, but then you'll hear my opinion on the other side. But it doesn't bother me to listen more than I talk, because remember, as a leader, they don't want to hear from you. They want you to hear from them. So when you take on a leadership role, it sounds counterintuitive, but the best leaders listen more than they talk. You also need to look people in the eyes. Have you ever been at a meeting and you're talking to someone and their eyes wander? They lock in on their next best conversation that they're going to have, or they see the next most important people that they want to speak to, and you lose them. They quit listening. You can tell because of their eyes. Well, if you walk up to me and you talk to me, I'm going to look you in the eyes until we're done talking. And that may be a little disarming, but for me, it's important that I give you my complete attention. And if my eyes are on your eyes, I know that you have my complete attention and I'm hearing what you say. So you listen more than you talk, you look at people in the eyes, and you care about what's being said. The people that are talking to you, the people you're leading, will sniff out in a second if you don't care about what they're telling you. And believe me, there'll be 1,000 people that know about it before your head even hits the pillow that night. You need to care about what's being said, and you need to listen to their point of view. You need to make mistakes. You need to own them, then move on. one of my greatest mistakes, other than my empathy mistake, was one that is a hard story to tell, but it's one that makes my point. I was fortunate enough that I was invited by District 10, the Northwest Athletic Trainers Association, to go to Alaska to talk to their state meeting. Well, that sounds like a big group, doesn't it? Well, Alaska is not your average state. I think there were 17 members of the Alaska Athletic Trainers Association. So I fly up there, I make my talk, and then they have elections for their officers, and they elect a new president. And it is something I like to do. I always like to write notes to people who I've visited with or who have impacted me, who have taken the time to do something for me, or who have won awards. So I got the 17 names and addresses of the members who were at the meeting, and I came back to Boone, and I sat down and wrote them each a note, telling them how much I enjoyed the meeting, on, and then in the note I congratulated the winner of the presidential election. I seal them up, I stamp them, I walk them in our building where the clinic is. The post office occupies the first floor, so it's convenient. I walk downstairs, I open the drawer to put the notes in, and as I'm reaching in to drop them off, I get this gnawing feeling in the back of my head that says something's wrong. But do I listen? No, I don't. I drop those 17 notes in the basket, and that ill feeling haunts me for the next day. So then I call my friend Russ Richardson, who was the district director at the time, and I said, "Oh, by the way, who got elected president?" And he told me who it was, and guess what? I had congratulated the wrong person for winning the presidency of the Alaska Association. There is no bigger mistake to make than that. Well, I owned it. I immediately called the president and the other officers. I apologized. I said, it was just as honest and frank as I could be. And I apologized to everybody I could and let them know it was an honest mistake and that I felt bad about it. And once I apologized, I moved on. I'm sure I didn't make it right. You don't make something like that right. But at least I hope I made it to the point where they realized that I was sick over my mistake and that I owned it. And then I moved on to make other mistakes. You need to get involved in your school, local, state, district, or national levels. I believe in today's NATA, you're going to start at your local or school level, make a reputation, and then move to the state and then district and national. You have to get a reputation of a doer before people will ask you to do. And there are so many local groups now, and even within schools there are groups that you could become a leader in. And then once you get your foot in at whatever level you can, and the state's another great area. Many states have all the committees that mirror the district and national committees, which offers positions for each a person in each state. So that's a great place to start. And then from there, because you do a really good job, the district is going to want you to help them. And from there, the national is going to want you to help them. My first volunteer job was exhibits chair for District 9. There is no glory in being the exhibits chair, whether it was in 1987 or 2000 and whatever. But I loved it. I did it 11 years, and I worked hard, but you know what it did? It got my name in front of the members of District 9. They knew me. They knew that I was a volunteer and that I worked for the district. So in about 96, when I offered my name for the Secretary-Treasurer's position, the district knew me and they elected me. And because I did my job there, then they elected me president, and then the rest, as they say, is history. But I did what I'm telling you next that you need to do. When you volunteer, do the darn job. If you don't want to do it, don't volunteer. If you step up, you do the job. Every job I went into as a volunteer, I had 2 or 3 things that I wanted to accomplish. Whether I accomplished them or not, it didn't matter. But I went into every volunteer job with a plan. And with that plan, I did the best I could to make it come to be, and then everybody else's plans folded into my plan, and then hopefully I helped them do their job well too. Another thing for a young athletic training volunteer, don't be disappointed if your first tries don't bear fruit. It is okay to say that the position's been taken and to hear it that way. But it's not okay not to volunteer a second time or a third time, because eventually your attempts will bear fruit, and someone's going to give you a job to do, and that's when you're going to have to prove your mettle. The easy part is getting the job. The hard part is doing a good job. I've already alluded to this. Meet people. Don't be bashful. Walk up to anybody in any convention, at every game you go to as an athletic trainer. Meet the other athletic trainers. Find out about them. Let them know who you are. Find out what they're interested in. Tell them what you're interested in. Talk in the NATA. Talk about the things that you think are problematic. Talk about the things that you think are good. And see what their thoughts are. That's the way to get your name out there, is whether it's on the sideline or in a convention center. You also can get involved in the Den Digest, which I think is great. I've really enjoyed reading them and playing a part in that, just as a member who enjoys the discussions. You can get involved in blogs. Everybody's got a Facebook page. I don't do Twitter, but everybody does. YouTube, NATA convention work, and so on and so on. You can get involved in so many different ways, and you don't have to be appointed to do it, many of these things. The Den Digest would be a great place to make a name, as long as your thoughts are cogent and are appropriate and are positive. It would be a great way to get somebody's attention. Because don't tell me the NATA president and the district directors don't read the Den Digest every day and see what's going on, because they need to keep a finger on the pulse of the members. And that seems to be a place where it's very easy to measure it. Well, they can measure your pulse too by seeing what you have to say. But you'll get much further with honey than vinegar. So be as nice as you can and be positive and talk about solutions, not problems. You shouldn't want to be it. You should want to do it. If people believe you will listen, they will talk. People who resist change fear loss, as I've told you. And as I've already said, the most disarming thing I've ever could say was, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you're acknowledging what the other person told you, but then you also are taking an opportunity to offer your insights. So where do you want to start as a leader? Is it in the work-life balance area? Is it in the salary and work conditions area? Is it in the name change area? That's going to come up again, I can guarantee you. It came up when I was president. It came up during the last presidency. It's going to keep coming up. What other things? There are a million ways. Your practice setting, your age, the things you like to do. I mean, the list is endless of the ways that you can get involved in athletic training and the NATA. So where do you want to start? I hope you've enjoyed this and that you've got something out of it. Leadership really is an ever-evolving thing that I learn more from the people I'm around almost every day. And my thoughts and opinions about it change almost every day. There were thoughts in this presentation that I've had less than a month, and thoughts that I've had for 30 years. And I think leadership is much like a house of bricks. one brick is laid on another, and you eventually build something that's high enough to be at your knees, and then your shoulders, and then it's a wall, and then it's a house, and you just keep building, and there's never an end to the many areas and ways that you can learn to become a better leader. So I appreciate your time and attention, and as you strive to become a leader, you never know, because you too can become famous someday maybe, and when you do, I will see you in the funny papers. Thank you again for your time and attention, and I hope you got something out of this. If at any time you want to discuss anything that I've brought up, please feel free to contact me, and I would be happy to visit with you and meet you. Thank you once again, and goodbye.